Welcome back, everyone, to the Golden Wind Geekout. 2 weeks later, I am your host, Denny, and I got my co-host, Ryan, with me.
Hello, everybody.
And let's talk about episode 29, Get to the Roman Colosseum. And, oh man, this episode's kind of nuts. One hell of a way to come back after a 2-week break.
Seriously, we haven't even gone to the full meat of what's to come. We only just got the tip of the iceberg, and already things are going crazy.
All right, yes. So this episode starts pretty much setting up for, the next thing they got to do. Basically, with 10 episodes left at this point, we're heading into, the final location. They are on their way to Rome. So, yeah, just to give you a heads up, guys, for you anime-only watchers, Rome, once they hit Rome, they are there for the rest of the anime. So, I mean, we are heading to the final confrontations. So, they're going to be making their way to Rome at the behest of a hacker who caught wind that they are trying to find, they're trying to find any information about the boss. It's okay, they got the bust for a head, but they still can't seem to find any information on him whatsoever. And then, suddenly this hacker comes in. He's like, oh yeah, I know who you're looking for. And by the way, his name is Diavolo.
So yeah, just before we get to the final area in this entire part, it's we finally got the massive name drop that I'm sure a lot of you anime-only watchers have been waiting for. And yes, the boss's name is in fact Diavolo. Again, that is
gotta keep up with the food name theme going on.
Yeah. If you're new to Golden Wind or whatever, then yeah, this would be a massive piece of info for you newcomers. However, if you're like me and you were pretty much familiar with the big name drop, if you had experience with All-Star Battle or Eyes of Heaven, then yeah, you may have already seen this coming, you just didn't know exactly when.
Right. But, yeah, so suffice it to say, we got a face thanks to Abakio, we got a name thanks to our hacker, and not only that, he's also decided to drop some more information regarding the nature of stands. And I guess it's just more so just trying to, give a little bit more information about the origin of stands, as well as a little bit more information about the arrows. Because, as he pretty much said, he has in his possession, he has an arrow, and, it's a very special arrow, not only just because he says so, but, as you've no doubt been seeing in the opening and, compared to all the previous arrows that we have seen, especially in part 4, yeah, this particular arrow is very different. It even has, the little beetle thing that's, on the arrow. So it's very different compared to all the other arrows that we have seen in this series so far. But basically the whole nature and the origin of stands. So it's aliens. I guess. Technically not, but I don't know. Maybe
it came from space. It's basically okay. If you guys were keeping up with part 4 and such, that's what we were pretty much got the info on pretty much the arrow and how the arrow can create stands. But as Danny was saying earlier, at this point, we pretty much gained the origins of how the arrows were made and where they come from. Yeah, as it turns out, the arrows came from a meteorite that struck the Earth thousands of years ago, and I guess somebody took the material from the meteorite and tried forging them into arrows. This hacker got into detail on how if anybody makes contact with these arrows or whatever, or the material from the meteorite itself, they would contract some virus that for most people who make contact with this material, they'll end up dying. but there are some people who are lucky enough to survive the virus, and and just from that piece of information alone, it correlates to what was established during Part 4 in Diamond is Unbreakable. If someone gets hit with the arrow, and it's like a 50-50 shot of surviving. If the person dies, no, if the person gets hit with the arrow and he dies, that's it. If he gets struck with the arrow and somehow survives, then he obtains a stand. So again, what was established here, from how the meteorite was giving like this virus to anybody that makes contact with the material from this meteorite, it's pretty much exactly like what was established with how the arrow works in Part 4.
Yeah, so it's not a retcon by any means. It's still staying true to what we know with the information. It's just so much as, we're expanding on it. It's like, yeah, it's exactly like what you said, Ryan. It's more or less talking about the origin of the arrows. Because up until this point, we just know they exist.
Yeah,
we just didn't know where they came from at this point.
Yeah. It's like we were already aware of the arrows. The thing was, is like in Part 4, we were just told like exactly what the arrow does, but we just didn't get any info on how the arrows were brought about into the world until this episode.
Right. Now, that being said, though, if there's anything that maybe I've missed this or something. So it's like, I get that idea. Like, the whole thing where, yeah, it is staying true to what we know about how the arrows function. That's all cool and everything. Where I think maybe I get a little confused with this explanation is, how do you factor in the people that were naturally born stand users? Because you got to bear in mind, like, yes, the majority of the stand users pretty much since Part 3, like, pretty much, like, more, yeah, like, starting from Part 4 in Part 5 and, easily, possibly even in Part 6, a lot of these stand users, they got their stands from the arrows, but you do have some stand users that were just naturally born with this. It's like, take a look at Part 3, like Kokyoin and Polnareff. The two of them were naturally born stand users. I believe Avdol was the same thing, even Iggy. None of them had contact with the arrow, and yet they were born with that ability. So how does this explanation factor into them? The only thing I can think of is, thanks to people like Trish and Jorno, we know that, if a parent had a stand, it's very likely the child will have a stand. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. So natural born stand users, like, so are you saying that, like, people like Kokyoin and Polnareff, are you saying that, maybe like one of their ancestors got hit with one of these arrows or something, and that ability just kind of sense got passed down? Like, I don't know. That's the one thing about this explanation that still kind of loses me. It's like, it makes total sense for the people that get their stands through the arrows, but your naturally born stand users, how does that factor into the explanation?
Well, I mean, it's like, was it like? Well, it's like I have to ask, like, was it established that Kokyoin and Polnareff were naturally born stand users?
I believe so. I believe they mentioned that, they, at least, well, we at least know with Kokyoin, at least, and I believe Polnareff even mentioned this, that, they were aware of their stand abilities since they were children. Because if you remember with Kokyoin specifically, that was pretty much the whole reason why he had such a lonely childhood, was because, to him, he knew about Hierophant Green, but the fact that nobody else could see him, to him, if no one can see Hierophant Green, who is a part of me, that is where he felt his loneliness. And it wasn't until he met up with Jotaro and all the other Crusaders was when he truly felt at home. So it's like, so that was a fact for Kokyoin. And I believe Polnareff said the same thing, where he's like, maybe not so much the loneliness factor, but he knew he had Silver Chariot, since he was a kid.
Okay, that's right. I probably have to like whenever I get the time, I was intending on rewatching at least the first half of the Stardust Crusaders English dub before I can actually see what I've been missing with the English dub for the second half of Stardust Crusaders. So it has been a while since I've got like the backstory with like how Kakyoin and Polarev retrieve that their stance. So yeah, it's like in this case, I can understand how, like, the explanation of how, like, people like Kakyoin or Polnareff obtaining their stance, even though they had, like, no contact with the Arrow What's himself. Like, in actuality, it's one thing I gotta raise my eyebrow on. But but beforehand, it's like, if it was like done in a different direction, because I remembered that Kakyoin and Polnareff were once like servants of Dio, so
Yes.
it's like if they were to take a direction with Kakyoin and Polnareff, like say Kakyoin and Polnareff they run into Dio like take like brainwashes them with like the flesh buds and such, and before they send them off to to take out the Joestars or whatever, and like what was it, and pretty much pretty much stabbed the arrow through Kakyoin and Polnareff, seeing as how, as we established near the end of part 3, Dio was in possession of one of the arrows, hence why
Right.
he got his stand. That would make more sense to me.
Right.
But see,
Because that was actually the explanation. Like, yeah, that was how Dio got his stand.
Yeah.
And because Dio was in Jonathan's body, when his stand awokened, that was what triggered Jotaro, Joseph, and Holly's stands to be awakened, because they were the descendants.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah,
that
exactly.
that all made sense. But yeah, again, it's like that's not the establishment for people like Kakyoin and Polnareff, or Iggy for that matter.
Which is actually really weird, like for Kakyoin and Polnareff's sake, because seeing as how they were minions, of Dio at one point, you would think that they would have handled the explanation of them retrieving their stands, by means of Dio actually stabbing the two of them with the arrow,
But that is not what happened.
No,
It's
not.
It is established that yes, they were born stand users.
Right.
And that's like Iggy, same thing, born stand user. In fact, that was pretty much what made him talk dog. That's what made him talk dog in the streets, because he was using the Fool up until he was tracked down and captured. And
Right.
I'm assuming that Avdol had to have been a born one too. I'm assuming that's the case.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's like Joseph, Holly, and Jotaro were really like the only ones out of at least the main cast who got their stands more or less as a result of the arrows. That's been established. But everybody else, not so much.
Right.
So that's like I said, I could very well be missing an important detail here or something, but it's like that's just the one thing that kind of loses me on this. It's like, yeah, how do you factor in those people?
Yeah, pretty much. At the same time, though, like here we are talking about like stuff in regards to part 3 and the arrow. It's like going back to like how this hacker was, explaining, like the origin of the arrows and how this virus would actually, bring about stands or whatever. I also really appreciate the attention to detail. Like when this hacker was nearly done with his explanation, we did get a little bit of a throwback to all of the characters in Stardust Crusaders with the silhouettes, as we were getting another really good shot of the arrow. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's like our first hero group of stand users.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so pretty much from here on out, we're about to go. Yeah, they gotta get to Rome. This hacker is waiting for them in the Colosseum, and he's got information on how they can actually beat Diavolo, and it has to do with this one specific arrow. And he's like, I have to meet you guys in person. I can't just tell you. I can't just tell you over the internet, because that can easily be compromised. I have to tell you this in person. So that's the goal. So they have to get to Rome, get to the Coliseum, find this guy, and, you know, get the information from him so they can use it to defeat Diavolo. That is the main goal right now. That pretty much, that's what they got to go for throughout the rest of this part at this point. It's a race to get to the Coliseum and get to this guy. All right, so with that being said, that's at least that's like what the first half of this episode. So it's like, you know, so we know where they're going. Yeah, Diavolo / Doppio is, you know, following right behind them. Which now brings us to the second half. And my God, man, this is pretty fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is JoJo we're talking about here, and we have seen quite the amount of fucked up shit over the course of these 5 parts, whatever. But no, that there's still no denying this one was also really messed up.
Oh shit!
Oh my god!
Okay, this is new content. Like, yeah,
wait, is it really?
Well, I mean, we got the backstory, sure, but we weren't actually seeing the operations.
Oh my god!
So,
yo!
Oh my god, they're actually animating it.
さらにお前は家族に嫌われてるんだ。見舞いなんか誰も来ないぞ。こうした言葉を毎日言い続け、自殺に追い込んでいったのだった。自宅の本棚には
Okay. You're talking about how creepy his voice was. Like, I think that face pretty much sums it up right there as well. I mean, holy shit.
彼は医者を目指したのだった。チョコラータが何よりも好きなものは人の死を観察する。
I know Rocky loves his horror, but goddamn.
Oh my god.
Alrighty, yeah, so our next stand battle, it is, so it's between, 2 guys, Chocolata and Seko. And, you know, yeah, pretty much, yeah, this is more so Chocolata starting this battle. You know, this is gonna be like a battle. This isn't like, this is not like, what their face is, Squall and Tiziano, where these are 2 stand users that absolutely need each other to work together. This is far closer to Prosciutto and Pesci, where it's just, they work together, but they're deadly on their own. And yeah, Chocolata pretty much, starts this fight with his stand, green tea.
Green tea. They went from Green Day to green tea. I don't
get it. I don't get the name
I don't
change.
get it either. It's like, what did they think, like the substance looked like green tea to them? I mean,
I don't even know
what's the connection there?
Considering that they're going the literal route for half of these stands, why couldn't they just call it green mold? I don't know. But here I am, giving Bruno and Narancia shit for having shitty stand name changes. I even remarked how Saleh's craft work becoming arts and crafts was a really dumb name change. I think I take it back. I take it all back.
Yeah.
Green Day to green tea. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That is such a stupid fucking name change.
Actually, you know what? All right, if I may reference a tweet made by the official JoJo wiki, they actually tweeted about the name change. They posted a little fun fact, if you were, saying, and I quote, "Fun fact: a more accurate translation of Chocolata's stand name would be Green D. The Japanese spelling actually differentiates from the spelling of the band, as it uses D-I-D instead of D-E-I, day. The only reason Japanese media uses Green Day is because it's written as such in Araki's art books."
Oh, for the love of fuck. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, to JoJo Wiki's credit, honestly, I would, if it were me, I would say, all right, green D is probably a much better change of a stand name than green tea. At least,
Yeah, yeah, it's like you're going by the Japanese pronunciations. It's like, oh my god. I think something blew inside my head. Oh my god. I'm at a loss for words on this one. And even if that is how if that is how it is in Japanese, considering you're already changing the stand names because to avoid copyright, now you don't have to actually follow it.
I know. I mean,
like this is such a well-known stand. This is another fan favorite battle. Massively known guy, like, really deadly, big fan favorite. This is someone that a lot of people have been waiting for, and you couldn't even give him the dignity.
D for dignity. Green dignity.
Oh my god.
What? Oh my god.
At least we know thanks to Well, now we know thanks to the title for next episode. We at least know Seko's name change. So yeah, a Seko stand is known as Oasis, and that became Sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
I gotta double check. Was that something that we actually called out? I know we called out a couple of synonyms. I gotta check to see if maybe we called that one. I know we didn't call out Green Day. We were totally off base on that one.
Somehow we were completely off.
It's like
we try naming like the more dignified names. While David Productions did the exact opposite.
Well, this isn't so much David Production. This is the
Crunchyroll.
what is it? This is whoever is in charge of dubbing, like bringing it on over here.
Right.
So that's like what Viz. Like, is it Warner Brothers or is it Viz who is actually in charge of distributing?
Okay. I know. Okay. Technically, the name. Okay. Oh God. See, okay, it's shit like this with JoJo that always throws me off, because it's like, okay, technically the original Japanese, JoJo or whatever, that's all Warner Brothers, but the English distribution, that is done by Viz, with the Blu-ray releases and the manga and all that stuff. That's all on Viz.
Well,
now the subtitles...
Either way, someone is fucking responsible for this, and somebody needs a pay cut.
Okay, all right. Well, to the guy's credit, it's like at least. You know what? Never mind. I don't even know.
I know you're trying to do your job and everything, but still, it's like, who decided to go from Green Day to Green Tea? Like, who finalized that decision? Like who signed off on that one?
Oh man, I mean, I'm grateful that the majority of these stand names have been pretty top, but Green Tea.
It's like I said, like Narancia, Bruno. It's like, here I'm thinking those two had it bad. Oh my god, I had no idea. I had no idea.
All right, look. We were originally going to name the stand Green D, but knowing how most people are, they would have been very immature fucks and decided to pronounce the name as Green Dick. So we decided to change it to a T instead of a D.
It's like, you could have just gone with Green Mold or something.
Yeah, Green Mold.
Yeah, it's like you could have just gone the literal route like you did with half of these stand names, but whatever. Okay, let's move on, because it's
whatever floats your boat.
We've ranted about the stand name change long enough. Let's actually talk about Chocolata himself.
Right.
So I know. So in the manga, we do get a backstory behind Chocolata. That being said, though, I mean, it's like, all the information is still accurate to what was said in the manga, but we got a lot more animation compared to what we got in the manga. Because in the manga, if I recall correctly, it was actually told through Diavolo. Like, Diavolo was actually talking to Doppio and was telling him about, where Chocolata came from. So for starters, it's like, okay, we have our traditional JoJo narrator telling the backstory instead of Diavolo. But even then, it's like, you look at the panels and shit, it's like, a lot of it is text bubbles, and, yeah, we do see some shots of, Chocolata's past, but they didn't get into nearly as much gory detail as David Production did.
No, they really did not.
Yeah.
I was like, we see Chocolata literally dissecting patients while they're on the hospital bed, to the point where it's like, it is so bad that even patients literally wake up and see Chocolata cutting their insides and pulling out their intestines. It's like, this is some creepy pasta kind of shit I'm looking at here.
Right.
Well, no, I take that back. If it was creepypasta shit, then that would be cheesy as hell and nowhere near as scary. That was completely terrifying. This is some true horror shit we're looking at here.
Right. And it's like, yeah, because we didn't see, like, again, like, yes, the information was true. So it's like, yes, we knew that he was operating and killing healthy patients. We knew that, yes, he was abusing the elderly, basically to fulfill his sick desires. So, yes, that information is very much true. But, my God, man, David Production went out of their way to actually animate and show all of this. It's like, goddamn. Now, let me remind you guys, if you remember all the way back towards the beginning of this part, if you remember the episode that we got La Squadra's backstory, you remember when Sorbet and Gelato, when they showed how like they found what's his face? They found Gelato's body where he had he was like tied up, he had a gag in his mouth, and it suffocated. And they put together, what was going on, where he saw Sorbet getting chopped up in front of him, and that was when he swallowed his gag and, killed himself. The shadows, the guy that was actually doing the cutting and chopping Sorbet apart, that was Chocolata. Like, you actually take a look at his, like, shadow silhouette, you can recognize with the hair, yes, that was Chocolata. So they are facing, their next opponent is the guy that actually killed them and kickstarted everything with La Squadra.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, this is the son of a bitch that was sent out to, be like, okay, La Squadra's looking into the boss? Okay, go send these guys to go take care of them. That was this creepy fuck.
And Danny's not even over exaggerating when he said, like, Chocolata's one creepy motherfucker. If the very deadly intent of Chocolata with the sick desires of murdering healthy patients was not enough. I know one thing that you pointed out, Danny, like a few times, was just how creepy his voice was in general. And I agree, yes. Honestly. The voice for Chocolata, not exactly what I had in mind, but my God, it is really on the creepy side, yet very fitting for a character like him at the same time.
Yeah, that really slimy, creepy kind of voice. That's just like, oh God, it's disgusting. And then meanwhile, you have you got his partner Seko, whom does have a voice, but right now mostly stays silent and grunts because, pretty much as you see with his design and everything, he's wearing the suit that covers up his mouth. So you will hear Seko talk, episodes from now. But as of right now, you're just gonna get like some grunts and shit. But
Right.
So speaking of voice actors, so I looked up Chocolata and Sekko's voice actors. So Chocolata, his voice actor is Atsushi Miyauchi. I hope to God I'm pronouncing that name right. Now, he's been doing some voice acting for a little bit, and a little bit of gaming, a little bit of anime. For the most part, as far as anime goes, the one role, or at least the one anime that I know I'm familiar with, he voiced Daiju Mononobe from Eden of the East. So he was a bad guy in Eden of the East. So that's where I was like, okay, that's just fucking fitting. What kills me though is that if you look on Wikipedia, his role, his anime and game roles are small, but where you'll actually hear this guy more often is Japanese dubbing. So whenever you get like a movie or something from another country, like a movie or a show, and they bring it over to Japan, just as how we do English dubs for Japanese media, they do the same thing. They do Japanese dubs for foreign media. Chocolata's voice actor voices Bruce Banner in the Marvel movies. So yes, this is the Hulk. Our next stand fight is against the Hulk.
Oh man. Okay. I know we've been harping and ranting about the name change of his stand, from Green Day to Green Tea of all things. But you got to admit, when you put the two and two together, the word green in his name actually sounds more fitting than it does. I'm just saying.
Son of a bitch, man. So it's
funny because it's true.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Giorno versus the Hulk. That's going to be interesting to see.
Oh, yeah, really.
So, as for Sekko. So, Sekko's voice actor, his real name is Kenichiro Ohashi, but he does go by a stage name, which more people know him as. And his stage name is Ken. Kenn. So, according to the Wikipedia, he was a musician. He was a vocalist. Vocalist? Where the fuck that come from? He was a vocalist and a keyboardist for some rock band in 2003. But he then broke into voice acting a year later. And he's been in a fair amount of things. A fair amount of anime, lots of games. But at the end of the day, probably his most well-known role was the very first anime role that he got. What he broke into the anime industry in 2004. This is the voice for Jaden Yuki.
Okay, Giorno, whip out your stand. It's time to get your game on.
It's like, oh my god. It's like technically Bruno, but still. It's like, yeah. That is these are our next opponents. Like, Giorno and company have to go up against the Hulk and Jaden. Oh my god.
What an amazing duo.
Seriously, it's like, goddamn, man. That's gonna be crazy. It's like, I cannot wait to hear Sekko now, like, when he actually talks. I cannot wait to hear this now. I mean, I know he's not, at least I would imagine he's not going to use the voice that he used for Jaden, because, I mean, that's a character he voiced 15 years ago, but still, it's like, I would imagine he's going to use a different voice, but still, that's just so goddamn funny to think about,
Right.
Alrighty, so those are the voices. We got the stand name changes. So as far as Green Day goes, so basically The Last of Us. It's like, that's more or less like, I mean, Giorno even, excuse me. Giorno even says that, the way the mold operates, I mean, it operates exactly like the mold, what is it, cordyceps? I think that's what it's called, which is more or less what the mold from Last of Us was based off of. Like, it's a mold that, it grows off of corpses. Like, it infects, like, it'll infect a bug or something, kill them from the inside, and then just grows and, it just grows off of a corpse that it creates. That's more or less what's happening here. Now, but the trick to Green Day is it is entirely based on elevation. So when you are at higher elevation, it's not going to hurt you that much. But when you're at lower elevation, that is what triggers Green Day's attack. So yeah, this is where, this is why when Narancia jumped down into the boat, putting him at a lower level than even Mista, that's why Narancia got hit so hard, and he had the turtle with him, which is how, Bruno, Trish, and Giorno got hit. And yeah, Mista, just so much as reaching into his boot to grab his gun, put the mold on his hand. So that's the key. That is the key to trying to survive Green Day. You just have to get to higher elevation.
Right, which honestly, that was one thing that I nearly completely forgot with that ability. Here I was thinking, oh, okay, all right, so basically you got to get within a certain range or whatever, and then you'll be hit with the green mold or anything. But no, upon seeing what was going on with Mista and Narancia, it's like, nope, yep, you're absolutely right. If you hit lower levels or whatever, then yeah, you're pretty much prone to be attacked by Green Day.
Right. So yeah, so we know how Green Day functions. The battle's already starting, and and at least as far from what we're seeing, for next week for the title card, part 1. So this is gonna be a series of fights that's gonna take multiple parts. So pretty much right now they just got to survive getting out of the village. They got to try and get out of here alive to even get to Cioccolata and Secco. But Cioccolata is going to be the first one that we're going to fight against, and then Secco. So again, like Prosciutto and Pesci, we're going to fight one first, and then we're going to fight the other. And Cioccolata is the next battle. So I would imagine, considering we've got the setup, and even then we got a little bit before we actually get into the fight proper. So I would imagine next week and probably the week after that is going to be dedicated to fighting Cioccolata. And then once Cioccolata is taken care of, it'll probably be another episode or two just to get Secco's fight in.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I actually hope that it's like the entirety of the Cioccolata fight is just next week for one reason only, but I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, there is one major reason why not just you, Ryan, but I think everybody is waiting for, and we don't know if it's going to be next week or possibly the week after that. We don't know.
Yeah, it's really
hard. Honestly, I'm leaning towards 2 weeks from now. I would think from what I remember with what happens, because they got to get out of the village and actually get to Cioccolata and Secco. They got to get to them first before the fight actually starts proper. That's probably going to be the first half of next week is just getting to Cioccolata. And then the fight will start, and it's probably going to end, the episode's going to end in the middle of the fight. So that's where I think they're going with this. So the moment you're waiting for, Ryan, I think we're still 2 weeks away from that.
And you may be right, because it's what was it? Technically, where we are at right now, we're pretty much at like, okay, we just got the big reveal of what Green Day stand, how a Green Day stand functions or whatever. So, and technically, in the manga, we're pretty much halfway through the first chapter of Volume 14. Because Volume 14, that's when all this shit happens with Chocolata and such.
Right.
And it seems like we're just at the very begin. We're like halfway through the first chapter of technically Volume 14 in the manga. And we don't get the real. And we have like, oh god, what was it? Like at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8.5 chapters until we see the end of the Chocolata fight, pretty much.
Yeah,
So
because yeah, so practically nearly an entire volume.
yeah, so I mean, it's like, I mean, as much as I really want the entirety of this volume to be condensed into next week's episode, I don't know. As much as I want to wish that, that may be stretching it. Like, for the next episode, we may end up getting to, like, at least the halfway point of this volume, pretty much.
Right. But so I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But that's what we're kind of betting on at this point.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath on anything. However, if we do get to the real meat of the fight, then I am not going to complain. I am just probably going to flip in a good way.
Believe me. You know, we're all waiting. We are all freaking waiting on that one.
I've been waiting too long.
I know, but we're nearly there. I mean, it's like the light is in the light's in the distance. It is within reach.
Yet it feels so far. God damn it.
Alrighty. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else regarding this episode that we might have missed?
I think in regards to like the important stuff that we've seen throughout this episode, I think we pretty much covered all the important stuff.
Alrighty, Dan. Alrighty, so suffice it to say, hope you guys enjoyed the return, and we will see you guys next week for part 1 of Green Tea and Sanctuary.
But Sanctuary!
Yeah, that's where it's like, yeah, fuck it, no. It's like, yeah, no, Green Day and Oasis.
Green Day and Oasis, yes.
So it's part 1. So we'll see you next week.
See you guys next week.